It's October, and I guarantee many of you out there would like to throw the ultimate killer party. Well, a gentleman by the name of Lucian Grayshire specializes in throwing just such a party. But one question rises. Is killer a figure of speech?
Feel the chill in the air. Listen to the leaves rustle as they die and fall to the ground. It is Halloween. You will experience tales of horror, ghosts, and death. It is not recommended for the weak at heart. Join me for a tale of Halloween. This is Weekly Spooky.
Well, my spookies, it's October. So, how about we have a little more spooky in our weekly? I say we have no limit. The bounds are completely out of hand in this month. So today we have yet another terrifying tale that I'm sure will get you in the spirit. But before we get to that, I want to mention we have a special deal going on with Bobbletopia.com. Bobbletopia is your source for bobbleheads of all types, whether you want something funny or scary. Bobbletopia.com has something for you, and if you use code WEEKLYSPOOKY at checkout, well, you get 10% off, and you're directly supporting the program. So why not head to Bobbletopia.com and find that perfect bobblehead for yourself or a loved one. I have a Freddy Krueger sitting right here on my desk right now. And speaking of Freddy, tonight's story involves a rather interesting burn victim as well. But before we get to the story, I just want to remind you to make sure you're subscribed on your favorite podcasting app, because there will be a brand new weekly spooky show every single day in October. That's right. Today, tomorrow, the next day. We're going to keep the scary rolling and rolling and rolling. And if you love what you're hearing here, head over to Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts and leave us a 5-star rating. It really helps new people find the program. And we know there's a lot of new folks listening right now, ready to get into spooky season. And that's what we're all about right here. But we don't just do it in October. We do it all year long. But now it's time for a story to chill you after these quick words. Burn on the Bayou by L.F. Falconer. Fortunate is the man who can make a living doing what he loves, and Lucian Grayshire is a fortunate man, despite having risen from the dead. Pickering Manor hides among ancient cypress and sprawling live oaks on the edge of the bayou, the yard tangled in rhododendrons and creeping vines. It once served as the main house on a modest plantation, yet early during the Civil War the property had fallen into disuse. To this day it remains empty, locked in a state of perpetual desperation, beyond an 8-foot brick wall and swathed in cobwebs and mold. A sepulchral squeal slices through the silence as the massive wrought iron gate is pulled across the drive. A treasure, these rusty hinges, Lucian notes, with a thin-lipped smile. No need to make any adjustments to this sound effect. In the darkness beyond his limited field of view, a crisp rustle in the grass swallows his attention before drifting back to silence. "Thank you," he whispers with a nod. "Well done." According to local lore, rebellious slaves had murdered the entire Pickering family in their sleep. Night shrieks, moans, wails, and thundering footfalls racing across the floorboards have since punctuated every ghostly tale the manor is featured within. Pain lives here. Wild seclusion coupled with its sordid history make this an ideal choice for Lucian's smashing Halloween bash of the year. Never has one of his soirees been a failure, his fame legendary. Clients scramble for a booking and demand only the best haunted experience as they throw outrageous funds his direction in order to impress their peers. He sets his fees high. They still pay. They will always pay. Each Halloween presents a new challenge as Lucian strives for proper orchestration, selecting the express location, perfecting the ghastly props, and inviting the precise guests. To pull it all together makes the passage from one Halloween to the next seem but a blink in time. This undertaking ensures each event is unique, lest a staleness or predictability begin to dampen the excitement and diminish his list of well-paying clients. The one standard which endures from year to year is his costume. He has only to don an old ulster and top hat. Horrific burn scars, a natural limp, and a tall, gaunt frame exquisitely complement his duty as host. Tomorrow is All Hallows Eve. Everything is set. With his single good eye, Lucian glances back at the manor. A squint of moonlight illuminates 3 of 5 gables in shades of wet clay. Tomorrow. The song raggedly escapes his lips while he locks the gate. Tomorrow. Hobbling toward the idling van, his thoughts begin to process the planning tasks which will comprise the coming year ahead. He sleeps well now, no longer troubled by his dreams. Brock Henning's Rolex watch reads October 31st, 6:06 p.m. He stands before the dressing room mirror, adjusting the black pirate hat atop the long dreadlocks of the wig, cocking it first this way, then that. "Are you certain you don't want to come?" he calls out to his wife. "You'll never have another chance at a party like this." As if on cue, Vivian appears in the dressing room doorway. "Don't be absurd. I can't believe the amount you paid that man. It's positively criminal." Inwardly, Brock smiles. It would ruin everything if his wife broke character and chose to accompany him. He already has a date. And Desiree Jolly is a far more delicious piece of arm candy than this prim dowager he'd married could ever hope to be. There isn't enough plastic surgery in the world, but after 3 years of marriage, he believes he knows his wife well enough. Vivian will never lower herself to attend an event for the sheer fun of it. "You are aware of the notoriety of a Greyshire Halloween," he prods gently, knowing he must keep up a modicum of husbandly concern, yet not so much to actually change her mind. "What I'm aware of, Brock, is the ridiculous waste of it all. But since you've already deemed it worthy of my late daddy's money, there's little I can do about it now. But keep in mind that as of tonight, the purse strings close." He moves to the doorway and attempts to embrace her, but Vivian sidesteps, evading his grasp. "Don't be so testy, dear." Brock reaches out ever so slightly. "There's no need to punish me too harshly." "Oh, really? First it was the yacht that never leaves the marina, then the summer house in Naples, which I have yet to even see, that damn Maserati, 2 loser racehorses, and now this. I've had more than enough, so go enjoy yourself while you still can." I'll be contacting the lawyer tomorrow." "My sweet pet, don't act this way." Brock makes another mock attempt to soothe her. "You're absolutely right. I've been a fool with some of my spending, but I promise I've learned my lesson. I'll be better in the future." "What you do in the future is no concern of mine. I'm through. My daddy didn't leave me his estate just so you could blow it all in a few short years. Get out. Go. Don't keep your guests waiting on my account." Vivian wheels about and strides from the room, slamming the bedroom door on the way out. Brock relaxes and steps from the dressing room. At the bedroom window, he glances out at the hedgerow along the far edge of the yard beyond. Before drawing the drapes, he unlocks the window latch, then turns and removes the buccaneer jacket from the costume box. With a wink of approval to his mirrored reflection, he tucks his cell phone and wallet away and departs his wife's ancestral mansion. The drive to Desiraya's home is uneventful, and he whips the sleek black Gran Turismo into the open driveway, making certain to lock it upon exiting. This neighborhood seems plucked straight from his past, teeming with the lower middle class and their wall-to-wall tract homes. Thanks to Vivian, he has finally moved above all this. He plans to stay there. Before he can knock upon his paramour's front door, it opens, revealing the comely young woman clad in a velvet bustier, miniskirt, and over-the-knee black leather boots. "Ah, now there's a fair wench if ever I've seen one." Brock sweeps her into his arms, drawing her back inside the privacy of the house, while he closes the door behind him with his foot. "I could devour ye right here and now." "Any other time and I'd let you, Captain Hook, but I'm pretty anxious to get this night over with. Is everything set?" Brock nuzzles her neck. "It's Jack Sparrow, not Hook. And yes, I have a man named Watts who will come in to burglarize my home. It's a damn shame Vivian will only get in his way, but such things can't be helped, can they?" Desiraya purrs against his ear. "No, they can't, and I can't wait to move in. I'm dying to get my hand on that place, and we've been waiting way too long." She clutches onto her lover's hand and accompanies him to the door. After settling into the car, Brock programs the GPS for directions, and they're off. Lucian waits at the gate in the dark, a battery-operated lantern held in one hand. Created by strategically placed machines, low fog shimmers in the distance. It resembles smoke to the point that he can actually smell it. The rank odor of charred wood and plaster as the smoke billows beneath the locked bedroom door. Beyond the door, echoing through the inferno, the maniacal shouts of his father. Footfalls heavy, running the wrong direction. "Help me, Daddy!" Lucian's cracked, frantic cry, eyes and throat afire, hands beating at the hot door. "Don't leave me!" Lucian snaps to attention, driving the mordacious memory into the shadows as the engine whine of the approaching Maserati binds him fully back into the present. The gate screeches as he opens it wide, and after his client drives through, he follows the red taillights up to the lantern-lit drive, limping toward the vehicle as Brock and Desiraya ungracefully extricate themselves from the low-slung car. "Good evening." Lucian gives a courteous bow, doffing his top hat for a moment before righting himself. "This place?" Brock shakes Lucian's hand. "My man, this all looks spectacular so far. Downright haunting all on its own. Show me what you have in store." Keeping close to Brock's side, Desiraya gazes around the empty drive. "Isn't anyone else coming?" "The party doesn't actually begin until 10, Brock explains. "But I want to see what all Mr. Grayshire has planned for our night's entertainment." "Sir? Madam? Shall we go inside?" Lucian leads the way, and Desariah and Brock follow their host. The flickering lantern light commands grim shadows to skitter through the unkempt yard. At an oak door burnished with time, Lucian hefts it open, motioning his guests inside. "By the way, great costume," Desariah says as she steps over the threshold. "You look kind of like Dr. Hyde." "Mr." Brock corrects, examining the cobwebs evident within the white light of Lucian's lantern. "It's Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde." Musky dust rises up, making his nose itch, and threatens a sneeze. Desariah grasps onto Brock's arm. "Whatever. It's still a pretty cool makeup job. Really gross." Lucian pulls the door closed behind them. "Forgive me if I appear unhandsome, my lady. It was a childhood misfortune." Desariah purses her lips. "Oh, sorry. No offense taken." Lucian ushers them from the foyer. "Please, let's make our way to the reception parlor, shall we? For that is where the main activities will be taking place." Desariah glances up and shrinks back against Brock with a shriek. He holds her and scans the staircase. Amid the darkness upon the top step, a hazy male figure clearly manifests. One hand holds a bloody axe. A woman's severed head dangles from the other.
There's more scares where that came from. Weekly Spooky will be right back.
"What the?" Brock shoots Lucian an acerbic glare. "A simple projection," Lucian tells him as the figure fades away. "A lovely effect, don't you agree?" The figure appears once more. "That's pretty gruesome, all right." Brock blows out a foiled whistle, mere breath between his lips. "I've got to hand it to you. You know your stuff." The figure fades out again. "My research uncovered the estate's true history," Lucian explains as they proceed toward the reception parlor, to the left of the foyer. Brock notes the eyes of the portraits on the walls following their every move. Cliched, he thinks, yet still unsettling. Evidently, it wasn't the slaves who murdered the Pickering family. Lucian leads his guests through the parlor door. The butchery was done by Master Pickering himself. Lucian sets his lantern aside and pulls a small box of matches from his coat pocket to light the wick of a lamp ensconced upon the wall. "Please forgive the lamplight, but the house has never possessed electricity." "Is this place safe?" Desariah asks. "I mean, it's been deserted for like 100 years. 152. Brock spews his stifled sneeze. "Bless you." Lucian pulls a tissue from his pocket and hands it to Brock, clicks off the battery-operated lantern, and steps to the next sconce. With the disappearance of the cold white lantern light, the room darkens, ominously shadowed beneath fretful flames. He glances back at the girl and lights the second lamp wick. "The manor is quite sturdy if that's your concern." "Do you know for sure?" Desiree counters. "Oh, I know many things, my lady." Lucian blows out the match. "Many things." "So, it was Pickering who actually killed his family." Brock takes a sudden step back, startled by the hasty, transparent reflection in the window. The same figure he'd seen at the top of the stairs. It suspends a different head. A young boy's. Lucian lights a third lamp. He took an axe to them, one by one. The children first, then his wife. By the time he started in on the household slaves, they overpowered him and threw him into the cistern, but not before 2 had perished. After the slaves realized what had happened, they all fled, fearing the blame would be laid upon them. And so it was. "You're making that up." Desariah shivers beneath the chill blasting through the room. "Everyone knows it was the slaves that did it." "It was the father!" Lucian snaps, impaling her with his one-eyed glare. Holding her hands up, she takes a step back. Okay, geez, chill out. It's a damn good story for the effects you've set in place. Brock continues to watch the window, waiting for the grisly vision to reappear. This place is really giving me the creeps, he admits, turning now to glance out the door. I can actually hear footsteps out there, but no one else is here. Outstanding! People will be talking about my party for years. You really think anyone's gonna actually be brave enough to show up? Desiree asks. This place has a really bad reputation. Brock steps back into the foyer, watches for the image at the top of the stairs, nearly overcome by the stench of swamp rot and dank humus. Stories blown way out of proportion, which Mr. Grayshire has managed to magnify magnificently. What better place for a haunted party than a well-known haunted house? It's brilliant, though you might have gone a bit overboard on the smell effects. It's more often people who are haunted than places, and the odor is natural to the manor. It's not my doing. It's hardly a party atmosphere. You're correct, but it is a haunted atmosphere, which was part of our contract. Lucian lights the final lamp, and I always fulfill my contracts. The grotesque image in the window fades in and out. Would you care to tour the grounds? Desiree shudders again. No way. This is scary enough. Oh, come on, Brock urges. It's not real. It's all simply well orchestrated, like movie effects. He winks at Lucian. Right, Grayshire? Lucian nods. The key to any plan is proper orchestration, but it is the execution which makes it a success. An unearthly wail echoes through the room. Brock and Desiree start with a gasp, their faces ashen. Brock looks uneasily upon Lucian with a nod of admiration. Desiree glares in contempt. Are you sure this is all fake? Orchestrated, Lucian confirms quietly. He had been dead when the firemen pulled him from the flames. His mother and younger brother remained dead. Lucian had been brought back to life, a life irrevocably altered through death. A life lived hospitalized for years in burnt agony while his father was sentenced to life in prison for arson and first-degree murder. But it was well orchestrated, his father continually claimed in a failed insanity defense. A plan, well orchestrated! Lucian had studied the court transcripts until he knew them by heart. Brock picks up the battery-operated lantern and clasps Desiree's hand. Come on, sweet thing. Let's tour the grounds before the guests arrive. She wrenches free. No way. Lucian takes the lantern from Brock's possession. You may remain inside if you wish. I shall escort Mr. Henning alone. Wait a minute, Desiree says. Even if all of this really is fake, I don't want to stay here all by myself. Brock takes her hand once again. Then you'll have to come with us. He gives Lucian a sidelong glance as they head for the back door. Several lanterns hang from the back porch eave, scattering shallow illumination across the neglected yard. Luminous fog creeps across the ground. Several unbodied wisps of white slither upwards, like sylphs into the night. Undaunted, Lucian leads his client through the mist. Dimly visible in the restless lantern light, weathered headstones make a vague emergence above the fog. Oh, hell no, Desiree protests, bringing her footsteps to a halt. In the distance, near the edge of the dark, a lone figure of gauzy white hovers above the stones. It has no head. This isn't a real graveyard, is it? Brock asks. In days of old, the dead were often interred upon their own land. Lucian continues winding his way through the mist-enshrouded stones, the headless figure vanishes. As the lantern light moves off, Brock and Desiree hasten to keep up. "Special effects, right?" Brock asks. Lucian flashes a toothy smile and winks his cloudy, sightless eye. "Brilliant, wouldn't you say?" He had purchased the headstones with the profits from his first event. One for his mother, one for his brother, finally able to mark their plots in an appropriate manner. No longer are they left unnamed, unnoticed, and seemingly forgotten in the Havenport Cemetery, 1,000 miles distant. No, they were never forgotten, and he feels it an injurious aberration that they are the ones buried and gone, while his father's every living need is seen to through the taxes and sweat of the working class. And though Revenant himself, part of his soul still walks the land of the dead, especially at this time of year, when the veil runs thin. Desiree clings to Brock's side, clutching his hand. "Let's go back to the house now," she says. "I've seen enough." "Allow me one more piece of orchestration," Lucian says. "I assure you, it will be the highlight of your night." Brock readily concedes. "Since we've come this far, I suppose we should see it." Leaving the graveyard behind them in the darkness, the trio wends through a close-set grove of cypress. Dangling Spanish moss latches onto Desiree's hair. "There better not be any spiders in this stuff." She brushes at it and grips Brock's hand tighter. "If we go much further, we'll all end up in the bayou." A sliver of moonlight glimmers overhead. "We're still upon solid ground," Lucian assures, keeping his direction set through the trees. "We're actually nearer to the road than the swamp." Brock glances over his shoulder. "You will be able to find your way back to the house, won't you?" Under the lantern light, Lucian's smile stretches wide beneath what remains of his nose. "I've become quite well acquainted with these grounds. There's no need to fear becoming lost." His footsteps halt. "Ah, here we are." "Why would you go and set something up this far from the house?" Desiree's fear comes out bitter. "No one's even going to come all the way out here. Not unless they're drunk or stupid." Brock shoots Lucian a curious frown. She has a point. As much as the taut, shriveled skin allows, Lucian attempts to pout. "If you'd really rather not see it, we shall return to the manor forthwith." "Forthwith," Desiree grumbles. "Who even talks like that?" Now, sweet thing." Brock soothes her ruffled feathers. "Don't be cruel. There's no need to belittle the man's manner of speech." "Well, this place is creepy enough in the daylight, let alone at night, with a bunch of scary orchestration going on with some weirdo. Can't we all just go back to the house and wait for the others?" Lucian moves off, taking the lantern light with him. "Please, it's right over here. If you'll but take a quick glimpse, it took great effort to prepare." A rock wall manifests within the dim glow, 1 foot tall and circular in shape, 15 feet in diameter. Brock and Desiree step closer. "Is that a cistern?" Brock asks. "The cistern." Lucian peers over the edge of the open well. Lantern light bounces off the lime plaster walls, revealing a pit of 12 feet in depth. Shallow black water pools at the bottom, reflecting the lantern's luminance. Desiree bends forward and glances in. "What's that down in there?" Brock looks at Lucian, his eyebrows knitted in question. "Pickering?" Lucian cocks his head and mouths a silent command. Brock responds with a shrug. Are those gators? Desariah asks. Lucian silently commands Brock again. Brock slowly pries his hand free from Desariah's grasp and shuffles back. Don't be ridiculous, my sweet, he says. How would alligators get inside a cistern? I'm pretty sure those are gators. Indeed, you are correct, Lucian says, waving his hand behind her, mouthing his silent words yet again. Brock takes another step back. Lucian rolls his good eye skyward, spewing a disgruntled breath. Bloody hell, must I do everything? He steps up and shoves Desariah in. In Lucian's eye, she seems to tumble with grace, like a slow-motion gymnast dismounting a bar. After she performs a mid-air twist, her fingers are left desperately clinging onto the rock rim, one red fingernail broken. She dangles inside the pit, boots kicking at the smooth interior wall in search of a non-existent foothold. Her plea for help, a curdled scream. Brock judders forward. Oh dear Lord, she's fallen in! We gotta help her! But Mr. Henning, Lucian leans in and crooks his non-existent eyebrow. Your instructions were explicit. Your payment. Oh, for Pete's sake, Grayshire, I'm trying to maintain a pretense here. Work with me, man! Work with me! Desariah screams again, her fingers clawing at the stones. Her left arm crawls atop the rim. She begins to worm her way up. Lucian straightens. My deepest apologies, sir. For a dreadful moment, I thought perhaps you'd changed your mind. Ha! Brock steps to the rock rim and stomps upon Desariah's right hand. I'll be damned if I'm going to share my upcoming inheritance with this silly little gold digger. As she fights to regain her hold, he kicks her arm off the rim. She plummets, her blood-chilling scream consumed by the surrounding trees. A rush of splashing rumbles up from the pit. Brushing his hands together, Brock steps backwards with a smirk. And thanks to your recommendation of Watts, after tonight I'll be sitting pretty for the rest of my life. The screams from the cistern go silent. The splashing slowly subsides, muted by darkness. Brock glances over at Lucian with a satisfied grin. Brilliant job. You've earned every penny I paid you. Every penny. Lucian tips his hat with a slight bow. And more. From the shadows, a dark hooded figure emerges. Silently, it glides to Lucian's side. The scythe shimmers in the lantern light. Brock shuffles back with a wide-eyed gasp, bumping against the cistern's rim. With a single nudge, he topples over the edge. As the screams and splashes below start anew, Lucian turns and gives an approving nod. Vivian sweeps the hood back and spits into the cistern. My daddy didn't raise a fool. Reaching inside her robe, she withdraws a fat envelope and several keys and hands them over to Lucian. The yacht and the house in Naples are now yours, as we agreed. I'm keeping the Maserati, so please, when you sail off, leave it parked at the marina where it'll be noticed. Fortunate is the man who can earn an excellent living doing what he loves. And Lucian Grayshire is a fortunate man. Vigilant in ensuring due justice is well served. Graciously, he accepts, tucking the envelope and keys into his coat pocket. Thank you, my lady. It's been a pleasure doing business with you. I do appreciate you allowing me to finish the little weasel off. An opportunity well deserved, in my humble opinion. He offers her his arm. What about Watts? I had to shoot him in the leg, but Now he's in police custody. Vivian entwines her arm around Lucian's. What about the alligators? I'll return them to the Bayou tomorrow. Shall we retire now to the manor house? I believe our guests will be arriving at any time. Vivian looks over and smiles. It would be unkind to keep them waiting. I love a good story about Turnabout being fair play. And I also want to mention that name, Lucian Greyshire, might sound familiar, because we had a story about him way back in episode 165, which was entitled Lucian Greyshire and the Ghost from Applebee's. And it's a good one. If you haven't heard it before, why not head to weeklyspooky.com and punch in episode 165 in the search and give it a listen. I assure you it will not disappoint. We are almost through our first week of October, and boy, have we published a lot of good content, so I hope you've been paying attention. Hope you've been subscribed, because there is so much more to come. Goodness gracious, we're only on day 6 out of 31, and I can't lie, I am knee-deep in the Halloween spirit because I'm spending every waking moment, it seems, recording something scary just for you. And if you want to support the show in a direct way, why not head to weeklyspooky.com and click on Patreon? For as little as $1 a month, you get a bonus story every single month, as well as a lot of other bonus content. And speaking of which, I want to say an extra special thank you to our Patreon podcast boosters, folks who pay just a little bit more to hear their names on the show. And they are Johnny Nix, Bobbletopia.com, Megan Hua, Julia Kirsch, Brent McCullough, Steve King, Karen Weemet, and Craig Cohen. Thank you all so much, and if you want to join those names on the list, just head to weeklyspooky.com, click on Patreon, and select any tier at $15 a month or higher. This is the most direct way to make sure at Weekly Spooky, we never die, or at least we never stay dead. But anyway, my friends, now I'm going to get back to it because we have a very special episode dropping on Saturday and Sunday. So for myself, for my executive producers Rob Fields and Joshua Butler, my producer Dan Wilder, and our composer Ray Mattis, we will talk at you tomorrow. I can't wait.
Thank you for listening. Make sure to find your way back next week. But for now, you are safe. Trust me.